So hello everybody, and welcome to the first ever informational webinar for the ICS Seed Grant Program. Thank you everybody for joining us today. So at this webinar, we'll cover a few things. First, we'll start with an overview of the program, what our goals are, what we fund, and how to apply. We'll also provide insights from faculty who have successfully applied for and received seed grants from ICS in the past. And then we hope to have a lengthy question and answer session at the end for you to ask all of your questions. Let me introduce our speakers today. Leading today's conversation will be Guido Trevone, who is next to me. Guido is an associate professor of geography. He's also the associate director of ICS, and he will be administering the Seed Grant Program. We also have with us two ICS Seed Grant recipients from last year's program. We have Susan Sinnott, who is professor of material science and engineering and the head of that department. And we also have Michael Hallquist, assistant professor of psychology. Michael is also an ICS co-hire. So one more word before we get started about how you can ask questions. You can submit questions at any time during this presentation. We ask that you use the chat function on Zoom to do that. And if you're not familiar with how to do that, if you hover your mouse towards the bottom of your window, there should be a bar that pops up with a button on it that says chat. If you click on that button, a chat window will appear, and simply type your question into that box and hit enter. We'll do our best to try to answer all of your questions. So I guess one other thing, if you are participating in this meeting, but not one of the speakers, we ask that you mute your microphone so that we don't hear you on your end and everybody can hear our speakers. So thank you very much for doing that. And without further ado, then we'll pass things off to Guido.
Okay, so we will discuss this ICS program for the 2017-2018. The goal of the ICS Seed Grant is to advance computational-enabled and simulation-enabled research at Penn State. We want to support interdisciplinary research groups as they prepare major awards from external grants agencies. So those are to be considered seed grants or large grants. We also plan to support grants for to organize a conference here at Penn State. The themes for this year align with driving digital innovation section of the PSU strategic plan. And in particular, the three areas that we plan to fund are health, general methodology, we mean cyber science methodology, and environment and energy. The window to submit proposal is already opened from 2 days ago, and we will be accepting proposal up until January 19, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. This is a hard deadline. We will announce the awards that will be funded and those that will be rejected in mid-March of 2008. So the goal for the seed grants are for projects that facilitate the development of competitive proposals. So again, the focus is a seed grant to attract larger funds, to pursue significant research and initiative, things like establishing center of excellence, and overall to enhance the visibility of Penn State and Penn State research. There are 5 types of award. The first one, that is a new award, this did not exist last year, is up to $35,000. And those are multi-college projects that involve ICS associates. Co-hires are automatically recognized as associates. Then we have up to $25,000 for multi-college projects, and different university campuses will count as multiple colleges. Up to $10,000 for projects coming from one single college, but having multiple faculties. up to $5,000 for single college projects from a single faculty, and then up to $4,000 to support a conference here at Penn State. In order to be eligible, you must be a full-time tenure-line faculty or a research faculty with a multi-year appointment. So the year-to-year appointments, those are disqualified. Also disqualified are all PIs and co-PIs who received the Seed Grant in 2016 or 2007. The review criteria are three. One, alignment with ICS and PSU priorities, and PSU priorities really focus on the driving digital innovation part of the strategic plan. Is research strength, the science strength of the individual problem, and the cyber science strength. In order to understand what we mean by the cyber science strength, you might want to look at a strategic plan for the Institute for Cyber Science. And then the third one, potential sustainability, and we really mean possibility that those seed grants will attract larger projects from external agencies or foundations. For the $35,000, $25,000, and $10,000 grants, we will evaluate on criterion, of course. Criterion 1 will be reviewed by ICS leadership, either the director or any of the associate directors. Criterion 2 and 3 will be peer reviewed by ICS affiliated faculties. Each proposal will receive at least 2 independent reviews, and all points will be weighted equally. If there are conflicting reviews, we will solicit for additional reviews as a time breaks, and this will be either by members of the community or by the ICS leadership. For the 4,000 to 5,000 awards, last year they were reviewed only by the ICS leadership, but depending on the number of submissions, we might also solicit for external reviews. This is about last year. So we received 33 submissions, 25 submissions at 25K, 5 submissions at 10K, 2 submissions at 5K, and only 1 single submission for 4K. The graph on the right, it shows roughly how we divided the different projects into topics. And the bottom left, you have the acceptance rate. So for the $25,000, there was a little bit more than 50% chance. For the $10,000, we funded 33% of the proposal, and we funded 100% of the 4K and 5K. Now, of course, this does not mean that we will fund the same level this year. It will depend by the number of submissions, but you can expect that it will be a lot harder to have a $25,000 proposal than 5K or 4K. With this, so some reminder, this presentation will be recorded and it will be available. The deadline is January 19th at 5 p.m. And again, this is a hard deadline. You can direct all questions to me using this website address. And right now, I will ask the 2 prior recipients to talk about their experience and share any suggestions that they might have with the team. I believe we will start with Susan.
The project that I was on was with Audrey Van Duyn, and the title was Predicting Crystal Growth in a Multi-Scale Data-Driven Machine Learning Environment. And our approach was to combine computational material science, machine learning, method development, and materials growth in the research project. The 2 PIs on the project were myself in material science and engineering and Audrey Van Duyn in mechanical engineering, and it was therefore interdisciplinary and involving PIs from 2 colleges. And we were focused on developing new software based on machine learning algorithms to automate the development of reactive potentials that could then be used in dynamical atomic scale simulations to study materials growth. And that was one aspect of the project. Another aspect of the project was to write software to accelerate these atomic scale simulations of materials growth so that we could examine growth on timescales that are closer to the experimental timescales. And we're currently leveraging the preliminary results we obtained from the seed grant to write an NSF proposal. This is a larger NSF proposal with 6 PIs, but the seed grant gave Audrey and myself the the ability to generate preliminary data that is allowing us to then proceed with the larger effort.
Michael, would you like to talk about your experience in your project?
Yeah, so my project focuses on decision-making in social contexts. And so the title of the grant was A Neurodevelopmental Computational Account of Social Influences on Decision-Making. My work focuses especially on the development of decision-making in adolescents and young adults. And it combines computational modeling, mostly growing out of reinforcement learning, with functional neuroimaging. So we collect fMRI data at the same time that people are making social decisions in the scanner. And the goal of the project was really to try and look at how adolescents develop kind of social biases, or the ways in which their social decisions may be biased by what's called Pavlovian learning, or the Pavlovian system. And so we're trying to develop a new computational model of how Pavlovian influences might alter social decisions in adolescents, leading them to be potentially more reactive or more impulsive in social contexts. So that work is with Zita Orvex in HDFS. So she has a background in Bayesian statistics and time series, and has been really instrumental in starting to set up some of the decision-making models that we've been working on that kind of try to track how people make decisions in real time, going from one choice to the next. And also with Erin Pincus in my department in psychology, who's more of a content expert on interpersonal behavior and social decisions. So the goal of the project was to acquire about 40 fMRI scans on adolescents and young adults. And we're about, I think, about halfway through that process now. And where this is leading is to a larger R01 proposal to the National Institute of Mental Health. So my work in clinical psychology mostly focuses on teens and young adults who have symptoms of what's called borderline personality disorder. And so the goal is to take some of the initial foundational work from the Seed Grant, setting up the computational modeling and imaging analysis pipeline, to extend to this clinical population. And so the money from this really gives us the ability to have very strong pilot data to demonstrate feasibility, and that we've already worked out a lot of the kind of computational details as we move forward toward that R01 grant. Let's see, in terms of how the budget was used, that was one of the kind of questions I was asked to address. Part of it is used for the time of a research assistant who coordinates and schedules all of our human participants and, runs the imaging sessions and so on. Imaging is quite expensive, so another fraction of the budget goes toward paying for the fMRI scans themselves. So those are the major costs: personnel and then the scanning costs.
I guess at this point, we have some time for questions and answers. So I see somebody has asked a question about
okay, so if assistant teaching professors can apply SPI, well, again, it depends on the appointment. If it is a year-by-year appointment, then no. If it is a multi-year appointment, then yes, regardless of
any limitations for use of funding.
Well, okay, is there any limitations on the usage of funding? The funds cannot be used to pay faculty salary. So if you're on a 9-month appointment, you cannot use this money to supplement summer salary. Most of the funding is to be used for either students or a postdoc position, part of a postdoc position. For some small equipment, we will not fund a proposal of $25,000 if all $25,000 are allocated just to buy equipment. But other than that, no, we don't have any major limitations. Travel is allowed. So while people might think for question, just give the floor to Derek just for a few minutes to talk about the different services that ICS can offer that can help in the preparation of the proposal.
Hello, I'm Derek Loddick. I am the IT project manager and client engagement lead for the Institute of Cyber Science, ICS ACI. I deal mainly with client side. That actually was a pretty good segue into what I wanted to talk about. One of the, when we think in terms of what these seed grants can be used for, most of the time we think of compute, storage, salaries for grad assistants or other things like that. One of the other things that they can also be used for is our advanced technical services. We do offer a range of technical services, CPU, GPU comparisons. We also deal with science gateways. We have people that deal with optimization, parallelization of code. The other thing that is becoming more and more popular is science gateways as well. So those things are all applicable to the seed grants and can be used for a part of the seed grant or all of the seed grant if somebody needs to. So one of the components you can put in there is visualization of your data that you create, basically. So we have folks that can take the data that you create, put together some nice visualization pieces to it. So if you need to submit those with your proposals or your grants, or if you need those for generating additional grant requests in the future to point to as references. So those are all things that people can utilize the seed grant money for. If you have any questions about that, or you want any additional information regarding that, you can certainly talk to me. My email address has been on probably about 100 emails that have gone out during the transition process here. So if not, it's dml129 at psu.edu. So if you have any interest or want any additional information in relation to seed grants or just in relation to our advanced technical services, please contact me. I'll be happy to set up a meeting to talk to you about it.
So we received a few questions. Now there is one for you, Derek. So I think we can start with that. For the service you mentioned, GPU, can we access GPU in ACID now?
So we do have GPU capabilities. They are not enabled at this time. We expect them to be available in the spring sometime. We're working on a schedule right now. Our goal is sooner rather than later. So I've been telling people in the spring sometime. I'm hopeful that they'll be available in the March timeframe, but I don't have a confirmed date as of yet. But yes, those GPUs will be available, and that could be part of somebody's seed grant as well.
Okay, I will answer some of the other questions. And meanwhile, if you have any questions also for Susan or for Michael, please feel free to ask them. So one question, can a proposal be considered for both 35K and 25K? No, not really. So the difference between 35K and 25K is only if the PI or co-PIs are ICS associates or ICS co-hires. So there would be no need to be considered for both, because to be automatically considered for up to the higher amount, but depending on the budget, you can request less. So maybe something to clarify is that those numbers are not are up to that number. So when we say $25,000 proposal, it means that it can be up to $25,000. It doesn't have to be exactly $25,000. Another question. Can one of the collaborators from another institution on the proposal? The answer is yes. Now, the requirement is that other than for the $5,000 proposal, it is a single PI. For all the others, so the 10K, 20K, and 35K, there must be at least one PI and one co-PI. And those two, they must be from Penn State. And specifically for $10,000 proposal, they must be from the same college. For the $25,000 or $35,000, they should be from two different colleges. Having said that, there is no limit on the number of collaborators that can be on the proposal, and we can have as many external collaborators, so external to Penn State, as needed. Something to keep in mind that we will require a letter of commitment for each collaborator, so even for the external one. My contract is 2 years. If I cannot be a PI, can I be a co-PI? What materials are required to apply for the grant? So if your contract is 2 years, you can be PI. And by the way, there is no distinction between PI and co-PI as far as eligibility. It's not that for be a PI, must be a tenure line, and for co-PI, it's either tenure line or multi-year contract. Either to be a PI or co-PI is necessary to be either a tenure line or to have a multi-year contract with Penn State. So a 2-year contract would qualify to be eligible for PI or co-PI. Is there a proposal submission template available? So the submission will occur through InfoReady, which is an online-based tool. So there is really no need for, it's just cut and paste.
Yeah, it's just there are fields in InfoReady that you will fill out, you know, in a form.
Yeah, so there is not a template just because, so our suggestion is to write your proposal in an editor, either it's LaTeX or Word, and then just cut and paste into the InfoReady website. Okay, so all those funds, they do not have indirect cost. There are no indirect cost charges for internal proposals. So those are real money. Okay, so there I hope I addressed all the comments. If there are no more comments, please feel free to send email to the email that we have shown before. It's ICS Seed Grants at ICS.psu.edu. And yes, ICS-Seed-Grants at ICS.psu.edu. And I will do my best to reply right away. Please do remember that submission is already open, and it will be open until January 19, 5 p.m., and that is a hard deadline.
If nobody else has any questions, then we'll wrap this up. Thank you very much to everybody for participating, and thank you to our panel. Again, it's Guido Cervone, Susan Sinnott, and Michael Hallquist. We will be recording this presentation, and we will put it up on the Seed Grant webpage, which is ics.psu.edu/seedgrant. And we look forward to your applications. We wish you success in your research. So thank you very much, and have a good afternoon.